Good morning, good morning. I'm sorry, ladies. I got so distracted. Let me just get onto view. Thank you, Emma, for calling. Um, okay, is Tippy not there with us this morning? Good morning, Dolls. Was everybody else trying to call as well? It's just on a, besides the memorial of Daniel Shimon Ben Doron Eliezer, which puts you off anyway. And here we are. And then we have a plan. We just have Rabbi D. Rabbi Leo D is going to be here in England, in London, and speaking on Wednesday, the 13th. I've got to get all the dates right. Baruch Hashem, without Hagim, the month will be very, very, very busy. And then so we have Rabbi D here on Wednesday, the 13th. So anybody that's here, but I am going to try and make sure that we have the ladies show that we'll have it on Zoom as well. And yes, and life goes on, and we are Baruch Hashem blessed. So we are now at a time where we are after our very busy spiritual growing. For some of us, the challenge of physically growing. And now we have to get back into life, into reconsolidating and putting ourselves where we really need to be. So one of our challenges are what it means to actually come together and really face what we call the ordinary. Facing now what we call the ordinary, and we back into a place. And we would hope, seriously, that we all are in a place of a very, very strong spiritual space. I'm just looking. Oh, Claire, you want to do me a favor and just mute? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're happy to have you in real. And now we're really in a space where we've gone through the intensity of Elul and focusing on what we're supposed to be doing in order to get to the next real space, and then going through the month of Tishrei. And to tell you the honest truth, all the time thinking, like, when is it that Hashem is going to say to us, enough, enough, we're here, we're really going to be here. The Rav of Yad Binyamin spoke this morning at the memorial, and he said, you know, Hashem, your children are suffering. Is it not enough yet? How are we going to carry on? Is it just not enough? But he says as well, he said, what did Rabbi Perez do with the pain? What did he do? There's no sitting down and putting yourself in a hole in a place. You go. We continue and we go and we go and we go, because that's who we are. The rabbi from the army that comes, that they said, and he said, you know, he says, every single soldier that falls, we cry. How much more can we cry? He says, but Klal Yisrael and the Jewish people are all crying together. And that is where our strength is going to be. That is where our strength is really going to be. In doing this in a place of togetherness. You know, the beauty of what we saw. And I have to tell you, I watched and I looked and I said, I got to watch this Hoshana Rabbah, that they had a Hoshana Rabbah prayer service at the place of the Nova Festival. And I said, you've taken something and we elevate whatever we have, we elevate it to a place of bringing it to a place of Kedusha, of holiness. On the second Hakafas, there was a big, beautiful tefillah there. Hundreds of people going and davening and praying, thanks again, Emma, and praying literally, singing and thanking Hashem at the exact same site that there was such a massacre. And I don't know how many of you have read, and I'm going to just begin because it's such an important thing. And we've got to see Yad Hashem in literally everything. Hashem's hand that comes to us and helps us with literally every single thing that we do. And it's very, 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 very powerful. This I shared it already yesterday. It's shared on the Dove group. And if anybody wants it to read again, it is something that is very, very important. And to mark the year since October 7th, this comes up, you'll see where it comes from. Danny Wise of Ami Magazine conducted 38 interviews focusing on the rebuilding efforts of Israeli communities in the Gaza envelope. Among his interviews, he met a woman named Daphna. Daphna is from Kibbutz Re'im. She had been the cultural director of the kibbutz and was one of the organizers of Novo Festival. A powerful, strong lady, I'm imagining, okay? Touring the kibbutz, she showed him her charred house and the room in which her mother and children, Shira and Meir, were found murdered together. She is the lone survivor of her family. Wise writes that throughout the conversation, he thought of Kristallnacht and the destroyed shuls. And he asked her if the terrorists destroyed any of the shuls in the communities along the Gaza envelope. Daphna responded, of course not. Not a single Beit Knesset was damaged in all 21 Gaza kibbutzim. Wise did not understand this. How could no shul have been attacked? No Sefer Torah burned? She explained, it wasn't a miracle. How could they damage something that doesn't exist? Most of the communities didn't have designated or active shuls. Daphna went on to explain this. If you want to understand the day after, you have to understand the day before. And Wise writes this. Rabbi Shlomo Ranan runs an organization called Ayelet HaShachar, which seeks to bring outreach to irreligious kibbutzim. He came up with the idea of a basketball game between Yeshiva Bochrim and the kibbutznikim of Re'im. The game was set to take place on Chol HaMoed, October the 2nd, just days before the massacre. Daphna had led the charge to cancel the game. To her, the match wasn't just a friendly contest, it was a Trojan horse, a way for religious influence to creep into the kibbutz. I was furious, she told him. This was outrageous. We didn't need outsiders telling us who a good Jew is, she said. Pulling out her phone and scrolling through old messages, she showed me the text that she had sent to Rabbi Ranan, warning him not to bring his religious mission to her doorstep. Cancel this game immediately, she wrote. If you don't, we'll all block the entrance with our bodies. In the spirit of peace, Rabbi Ranan canceled the game. But 5 days later, the massacre came. Just over the border, in the tunnels of Gaza, Daphna found herself held hostage, face to face with the forces that had torn her world apart. She says, I said to an older guard in Arabic, why do you torture me? For 20 years, I've made programs for Arab and Jewish. The Jews are your cousins. As she pleaded in the darkness for some recognition of her shared humanity, she was met not with empathy, but with a cold dismissal. You are not a descendant of Ibrahim. You are not a Jew. He spat. You are a European colonialist who stole our land. It was in that moment that Daphna said something broke, or perhaps something began to be repaired. The accusation hit hard. Like many in the kibbutz movement, Daphne had spent her life defining herself more as an Israeli than a Jew, and more dedicated to reconciling Arabs and Israelis than healing the divides between different groups of Jews. Religion had always been secondary to her identity, but now, in the depth of that tunnel, being denied her Jewishness by a Hamas fighter, she experienced a crisis of self. I started screaming, Ana Yudiyum, Ana Yehudiyun. I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew. And the guards restrained her, taping her mouth. But for Daphne, the internal shift had already occurred. For the first time in my life, I saw my soul. I saw that I am a Jew. All my life, Daphne reflected, I've been part of this community. We didn't see ourselves as Jews in the traditional sense. When I traveled overseas and someone asked if I was Jewish, I'd correct them. No, I'm Israeli, I'd say. But when he called me a Collins, it hit me hard. He didn't see me as a Jew because I didn't see myself as a Jew. Daphne paused for a moment, her eyes wandering over the ruined landscape. Every Arab village has a mosque. Christian settlements build churches. And here we have nothing, nothing to say that we are Jews. And in that moment, I realized that if we were going to rebuild, we needed to reclaim our identity. I will tell you, Daphne said, I took upon myself that the new Beit Knesset, the new Shul project, when we rebuild our Beit Knesset, we will be the most beautiful structure on the kibbutz. On Simchas Torah, Daphne lost her family, but she found herself. They died, but her Jewish identity was born. So it doesn't matter how many times I've read this, it doesn't matter how many times I've said it and heard it. It hits a very, very raw chord within us. Last night, I got a message from a dear friend, who lives here in the suburb, and she said to me that her son is going to Lublin. That her son is going to Lublin on the 14th of November. Do I know anybody who's going to be in Lublin that's going to be in Lublin and wants to go to Majdanek, but he's going by himself? And do I know anybody who's going to be there? So she said she had called Tzvi Sperber of Jay's Roots and he wasn't going to be there. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I'll message Aubrey Hirsch. I message Aubrey Hirsch, Rabbi Hirsch, and say, any chance you're going to be, for him, it's actually a normal question to ask him. Any chance you're going to be in Lublin or going to Majdanek on the 14th of November? He said, actually, I'll be there from the 17th to the 19th. I said, well, that doesn't help me. But okay. And I said, but do you have any contacts, any connections? I have a friend's son. He is very, very, very far removed from the place of Judaism. And but he's going to Lublin. He's booked a day off work and he's taking the day, he's going whatever time. And he wants to go and see and visit the grave of his descendant. And he wants to go to Majdanek. Anyway, Rabbi Hirsch sends me a number of Yankel. So Yankel's obviously got to be a Hasidic guy that's living there or something. No. Yankel isn't Jewish. He's actually a bit of a historian. Yankel's wife is Jewish. And they live in Lublin. And he says he knows all the things. He says, if you've ever been, for anybody who's ever been to the Warsaw Cemetery, there's a place in the Warsaw Cemetery that's marked out with a cover where they used to hide in the tunnels. This was one of the things that Yankel actually found and marked. And there are many things that Yankel has actually given to the community. And him and his wife were married many years, and they didn't have children. And they actually went to Davin by the Ser of Lublin. Her father was one of the very last Shomer Shabbos Jews living there. And yes, they do have a Jewish child. And then I said to my friend, who is your son's descendant? Like, I don't know what I was expecting to hear. But I was not expecting to hear that his direct descendant is the seer of Lublin, the holy, holy seer of Lublin. My goodness. So do you know what this is? I was like, okay, he's going to be taken on a tour in Lublin into Majdanek with this young girl. And I said to him, what I'd love to do is during some of the time, would love to make sure that he has so easy today. Let him go on WhatsApp. Let him give somebody, let Fiesberber, Aubrey Hirsch, anybody, speak to him as a Jew standing in Majdanek in the gas chamber and hear those words and know where you're from and what your descendants and what your internal obligation is. And I thought, Hashem, 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 help us. Right? Because what we need to be doing now is finding all the Jews all over the world, because the whole process of Kibbutz Galiot is taking place as we are watching it. And if Daphne, can you imagine? How did we understand such a thing, that we could have holy Jews living in Eretz Yisrael on holy land and holy soil and denied their Yiddishkeit? How does it happen? How does it happen? We have a dear friend who actually lived in Manchester, and through Manchester actually found their way home. Her husband and her grew up and they lived on a kibbutz. When they wanted to get married, he wasn't Jewish. He was Israeli. He had lived on a kibbutz his entire life. And he really wasn't Jewish, but he was Israeli. And he found his way home. They had children. They came to Manchester for Parnassa. Hashem blessed them in introducing them to wonderful Vanessa Broder, who started and created the whole seed there. And they're now living in Eretz Yisrael as a beautiful frum family. I was with them at their wedding when they got married Jewishly, and their gorgeous little grown-up kids and everybody, but they were all Jewish except for the father. And he found his way back, but he was Israeli. And it hits a core when you read something and you see, when you hit something and you see, and we say that, where are we? What are we doing? We have just been through this beautiful process. Here, Daphne, can you imagine what it feels like suddenly to find yourself and say, I could have had this all along. But she could have just said, I could have had it all along and ignored it now as well. And we didn't. So she's made her change. She's told, and who was Makar of her? Hamas. Brought her to a Yiddishkeit. Hamas challenged her and says, you're not a Jew. When somebody tells us that we're not a Jew. I grew up in a home where we were all Orthodox. God forbid your friend told you you reform. So we behaved reform, but we were Orthodox. We went to the Orthodox shul. My grandfather learned in Telsa and Sobotka, don't tell me that I'm not Orthodox. And then we've got to be able to say, hello, what makes you a Jew? And all these things that we have been following, and we started in Elul, and we're crying to Hashem, and we're telling him, we're your children. And he goes with us for such a long time, and he says, and now you're well prepared for me to leave you in your place to become a better child. Because you've been using this experience and this time to elevate. And we've gone up all those cycles and we've done this place. But as we go higher and higher, that spirituality place is actually narrower and narrower. We've got less to go around. even though it feels like maybe sometimes more. And the time when we challenge, we say like, oh, what am I getting from this? Means it's time to add something tiny that says you're behaving more like a Jew. And that spiritual connection and growth is saying, okay, honey, it's time to do a tiny little bit more. That's internal. I said to my friend this morning that we're going to, Ezra Hashem, make a lovely challah on the 14th of November and Hasmonean Girls' School. And yes, somewhere in the world and all over the world, it's Shabbat, that Shabbat, and it's the Shabbat World Shabbat Project or Shabbos Project or whatever we call it. But I said every single week we have Shabbos. And every single week it's a Shabbos Project because we should be elevating our Shabbos. Every single week we should be checking, are we doing this properly? Are we making our salads properly? Am I making my sauces properly? Am I ready in time? Am I ready to light my Shabbos candles? Then I'm not, oh my goodness, it's sunset, it's shkia. Oh, hurry, hurry. Or am I coming into my Shabbos and saying, if anybody's ever read the book called Grandma about Rebbetzin Devorah Sternbuch, I just remember one of my color teacher, Rivka Hershevitz, who's a granddaughter, wrote it in pseudonym. And it's the story of Rebbetzin Devorah Sternbuch and how she really brought up her outstanding children who all became Gedolim, from Moshe Sternbuch's mother, Rebbetzin Ehrentro's mother, and Rebbetzin Reich from Manchester. And each and every child either was a gadol, a great rabbi, great personality in their own right, and the daughters, the girls all married big Talmidei Chachamim. And when you see this, you say what she brought her children up. But when it came to greeting Shabbos, she was always ready in her farm, everything done and ready. She didn't do anything after midday. And she was always ready, waiting to light her Shabbos. One of the things that I actually asked one of her granddaughters, because Rivka, her one granddaughter, I said, the Rebbetzin actually didn't wear any fancy jewelry. She had something very plain and whatever thing. She says, when we have the Beis HaMikdash, that's when we're going to be able to enjoy things properly. Until we have the Beis HaMikdash, we're all in a place of, we have to keep ourselves back a little bit, and remind ourselves where we really are. And I think that one of the challenges of what we're doing, is the name of the author of the book, which now I'm going to say to you which book. Oh, sorry, Grandma. I don't know where you actually can get it, Grandma, and I don't know what her name is. She's Rivka Hershevitz, but you won't find it online. Remind me, and I'll find it right again. But I've got two of them that I got from the family that I lend out. I've just got to make sure that I get them back. But just remind me, and you can borrow it. Okay. It's a very short, little small book. It's a small, short book. But I can tell you one thing: it's such a short book, but it teaches you so much about a person. And she was widowed at the age of 34. She never remarried, and she looked after her children, and they were saved from unbelievable things. And it's an incredible thing.
It sounds amazing. I'd rather buy it if possible. I don't know
if we can find it. I'll find out from Rebbetzin Dunner where you can get them with pleasure. So so last week when I went with Rebbetzin Ehrentreu for a walk, she's amazing. In her 90s, every single day, she has somebody go with her for a walk, and you park at the bottom of the park, although I had my funny experience where I was told to park in the wrong place and ended up running up and down. But what was so stunning was that firstly, she buys your coffee, and don't you even try and offer to pay for it. She's not going to have that one. And then coming down and before we leave the park, she says, this is the spot where I stop. And I thank Hashem that at my age, I'm able to walk and to do this walk. And I thank Hashem for my wonderful walkers, and bless them. And gratitude is an attitude. And she said to me just before, she had said somebody had asked her why, how come she's always so positive? You've lost your son, you lost your husband. Like, how do you do? She says, gratitude is an attitude. We focus and count on everything we have not what we don't. And I said, you know, Rabbits and Aaron, you actually put something in our gratitude journal. And I keep forgetting because I need to take her one back. But she doesn't, I don't think she knows where her one that I'd given her is. But I'm going to take it back and show her what she'd written. And everything that we do, right? And part of this thing, when I'm looking at this, and I think to myself, when we have all these connections, here we're in full-blown war. You know, every time you put on your phone, you don't worrying about this and we're worrying about that. And really, then we're waiting to see what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. What is going on in Eretz? Yeah. What's happening in Iran? And we see these things, and I at Dahlia's house where I was on Sunday, and we're talking about, and I mentioned something about one of the miracles. And she said, well, the person I was standing and talking to, his son is actually in Lebanon. And I said, you know, we have to focus on the miracles, and we have to focus on things. And they're actually going to live in Israel on the 26th of December. I think he said Boxing Day is their day for Aliyah. And he said, what do you think? Like, do you think that I said, what do I think? You're the smart people. You're the smart people. My friend Janice Sugarman, they went to Israel, and they are doing a slow process. They want to see how things are. But I said to her, what date are you leaving? So she said, we're actually leaving on the 7th of October. Some people think we're crazy. Why are you going on that date? I said, great. I said, that's a perfect date to go. We choose the days and the time. When everybody thinks we are off our rockers, that's the time that we're supposed to say, we trust in who? We trust in Hashem. So does it make a difference when you're going to what? What you waiting for? What are we all waiting? I don't know. I know that I'm waiting right now for some of my family members to join me. Otherwise, I'm on my way. I had somebody come this morning to measure our cracking glass sliding door. And our doors here, I told him they're 36 years old, all the windows. He says, wow. Yes. I said, well, okay, they're born well. I don't know what to expect and sort of thing. I said, and then I'm like thinking, like, well, you know, what's that? And well, actually, I don't care because I'm not planning on being here. And I said, when I remember when Rebbitzin Silver, when I told Rebbitzin Silver, I said, we're redoing our kitchen. I don't know what I'm doing my kitchen for. I want to be in Israel, but it was falling off the walls. The floors were cracking. It needed redoing. I think the day that I decided was when somebody nearly tripped in my kitchen because we had tiles missing from the floor. And I put a special mat that you would see the difference. Anyway, that was when I said, that's it, we have to replace the floor. If you're doing the floor, you've got to do the cupboards and you've got to do everything. So, you know, that's how it all began with the doormat. So I said, but why are we doing it? I don't know. I don't want to be in this place for much longer. So she says, as long as you're happy to walk out and go straight to Eretz Yisrael as soon as the kitchen's perfectly redone. And I actually looked the day that we finished, believe it or not, we were actually that year going away to Portugal for Pesach, which we'd never done before, and we're going as Robin Rebbitzin on a program, and I wasn't going to be using the kitchen. And I was laughing. It was the first time that I've got a kitchen that could be properly kosher to Pesach. I wouldn't have to clean my ovens, my fridge, nothing. And you can just start with Pesach. Anyway, what was even more Hashem's thing was that we had people staying here, and they put on the Shabbos urn and they left it under the counter. And yes, and it was boiling. They didn't turn on the thing. So under my counters, there was like, whatever. Anyway, my daughter didn't want to tell me. It wasn't my daughter, it was somebody else who was staying there, and she didn't want to tell me. And I said, it's a kitchen. So what? Hashem just wants to come and show you. You think that you're going to have this, and you think you're going to do this, and we think all the things. You know what? Whatever we have, how we're going to have it, where we're going to have it. I actually nearly wanted to buy a whole front door because our lock has been, and today I've got somebody after all the years of everybody struggling with the door closing. And I said to him, I'm ready to buy a whole door because these locks drive me. He says, really? Anyway, today he's coming to fix the lock. And it's already been better since he was playing around with it first. So you see, these things are literally, Hashem says, we've got to know what we're doing here in the world. Everything that we have of physical, of spiritual, and of emotional is here for us to use. This month now, we've gone back, we've gone from all these beautiful preparation and chagim and everything. And now we're in the space where we're saying, okay, yeah, Baruch Hashem, there are weddings and there's simchas and all sorts of things. But we don't have a chag. And when people are saying, oh my gosh, and I'm like, no. You know what? Why do we think like that? We're given such a gift. Yes, it's hard work. Yes, it's a lot. Yes, it's even very, 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 very expensive. Yeah, I was sitting on Yom Tov, and I think I must have gone for all the grandchildren or whatever. I bought a lot of crisps, and I went to the outlet, and when I went, by the time I paid, just on the snack and the extras, I was like, oh, okay. I have to tell you, by the end of Shabbos, there was one bag of crisps left from 8 packets of 6, 9, 10 packets of 6s, and 3 bags or 4 bags of Simba chips. And you know what you say? Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. And these are the things. And now we're coming into Cheshvan. And we know that Cheshvan is called Malchus. But I think that we have to remind ourselves that we've gone through an entire year of spiritual warfare. We know the physical warfare is there. We know. But we're focusing on what we can do spiritually. And every single moment of our day, we have something that we can change and make a difference. I should really share with everybody the video from last week from Rebbetzin Altuski. And Rebbetzin Altuski spoke again last night in Edgeware. And I'm telling you, I don't know, in your 90s, we should all just be blessed to be able to stand and speak for a long, long time, because it's very difficult to get the Rebbetzin to speak for an hour without drinking. She stands and speaks, and she just goes. The Rebbetzin Altuski, Rebbetzin from Altuski, is in her 90s. Oh gosh, her daughter's name's just gone out of my head, who lives in Manchester. She was in Manchester last week, Rebbetzin Altuski, doing Chol Hamoed. And her father, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, was Rav Scheinberg. And I remember when Rebbetzin Altuski used to take me to Rav Scheinberg many, many years ago, close to 30 years ago, when I was taking groups of women, and we would go to Rav Scheinberg, and we'd go get brachas for all the girls. And Rebbetzin Altuski used to stand there, and he used to say, bracha v'hatzlacha. And she used to say, Tati, they need more of a bracha, be more personal. And we'd tell them what the person's bracha was that they needed. And it was very beautiful. Anyway, the other night I finished a bit late in Hendon, and my granddaughter and her friend who had come to listen had to leave because they were meeting friends already 20 minutes before. And she sent me a message on the phone, Booby, what time does it finish? Now, this was 9:45, and I said at 9:30. So she kind of looked at me. I said, Rebbetzin Altuski. Anyway, she couldn't stay to get a bracha. So before they started last night, I said, I'm picking her up, and I'm going to take her first before they start to get a bracha from Rebbetzin Altuski. Now, my granddaughter is Bli Ein Hara, very tall. And it was so beautiful. I said, anyway, I think she was thinking first she needed a bracha for a shidduch, but she's still a bit young. Okay, we've got another year in school and then a year in STEM, and she's not 17 yet, so we'll give her a little bit of time, because she was talking about all the Gedolim, right? All the great rabbis of Moshe Feinstein and Rabbi Aaron Kotler and the amazing Gedolim, whose wives were all much taller than them. And she said when somebody asked Rebbetzin Feinstein, like she was apparently very, when she was young, she was very beautiful, and she came from a very, nice good family, and she only married him. He wasn't Rav Moshe Feinstein when she married him. He was Moshe Feinstein. And somebody asked her something about, what is it? And she said, she looked and said, in my eyes, he's 10 foot tall. And And it was very cute. And I think that she wanted to give my granddaughter a little bit of encouragement. Don't worry, my maidela. You're tall, but you'll find a wonderful, wonderful husband. And it is like that, we sort of see things from where we are. But Rebbetzin Altuski wants to say to us that while we're here, whatever we do, our main aim is to actually overcome our middas. And when there are challenges that we have with other people in our interaction, it's the character, it's the middah that's going to carry us through everything. And just to let go, just to let go. And she says, and women have the much better capability and ability to do such a thing. Now that we're coming into this month and we don't have all the other things to focus on, we should have a little bit of extra time. Whether we're working, whether we're doing whatever it is, we should have a bit of extra time. So what do we do with that extra time? We have to remind ourselves at every single moment we have an opportunity to do something a bit better. So Rebbetzin Gottlieb, Rebbetzin Heller tells us about this month. What does she want to share with us about this month? She says, whoa, okay, we actually are able to hit the floor again. We're standing. We're in one spot, okay? Tishrei is the month of holy days that change us, hopefully forever. Hopefully they've changed us forever. They lead us to a place of calm that we laughingly refers to as real life. The question that we have to ask ourselves at this point is, how do we relate now, after all this beautiful time of stretching our spiritual muscles? How do we relate to the time of something that we're now going to call ordinary? It's ordinary. And the answer that we offer as a Jew, with a thought process, she says, of being mindful, with a desire to find meaning, and most of all, a deep belief that Hashem is unchanging and by definition, no more or less present at any time or any place. So yes, there are more things happening. Yes, there's more going on. But what we have to know, Hashem is with us at all times and in every place. Yesterday, there was a huge nace that took place in Eretz Yisrael at the, what's it called? Where they keep by the Air Force. And there was a huge fighter jet that was just about to take off and actually averted an accident with another fighter jet. And all you want to be able to say is like, Hashem is just awesome. And we want to be able to recognize the awesomeness of Hashem in that. And we want to be able to even understand that the awesomeness of Hashem in the things that we don't understand, of things that happen when we don't see the good. But the amount of missiles daily that are sent, and what takes place is beyond. It is just beyond. We are living in a place of miracles. You think we are living and recognize this every single day. I was talking to my friend in Eretz Yisrael, and she gets the beepers on her phone. She says, Joanne, you don't understand. Imagine having in a day 200 alerts. 200 alerts. And it's like beep, 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 beep. And that means that there are rockets that are coming, that are being averted. And when they fall, they're falling in outside, in open space. And how many of them have fallen on Israeli Arab villages? We don't really appreciate it as much as we should. But it's insane. This is a miracle. It's an absolute clear nace. That's all that it is. And we are living in an absolute nace. So we've got to say, what makes one time different from another time? And she says, the stillness of the chazan before he begins to chant Ne'ilah, the intensely sacred times, what we're doing. What do we do? The intensely sacred time of Erev Yom Kippur, right? And now we're in a space of ordinary. But we know that Hashem is still with us. So it's us who have to make the focus. Hashem's there all the time. He's there with us, protecting us, looking after us. It's us who have to make it. So Rebbe Gottlieb said there are times when the best way to serve Hashem is to look deeply within ourselves. And Hashem provides us with special times in which it is easier and which it is more accessible to make something happen in ourselves that helps us to move forward. We don't want to be static people. People get bored with themselves, and that's why they have midlife crisis. They're bored with themselves. If you're on a projection of growth of all the time aiming to do more, to be more, to give more, and to become more, you can't be bored of yourself. So why would you have a crisis? Who am I? But when a woman like Daphne has spent her entire life fighting for something that's the wrong thing to fight for, she could have had another reaction. But she's chosen to rebuild the kibbutz. And what's the most important thing she's going to rebuild on that kibbutz? That the Beit Knesset, the shul, is going to be the most beautiful building on the kibbutz. It's nothing that kibbutznikim want to hear. But today it is. Because they recognize and know. This is the ordinary. This is the taking the things and consolidating and building. This woman, in whatever age she is starting a project that is phenomenal. When I look at Lily, I've got Lily's picture here, at 97, is when she fulfilled her promise as a person. Never giving up and never letting in and always having hope. Imagine when we say now, at 97, I'll fulfill my purpose. Okay, maybe at 97, I'll fulfill my purpose. But how do you keep going till you're going to get to 97 to fulfill that purpose? You have to be doing and continuing and being from now. And that means that there are times in which, right, we have to work out and say, what is my best way in serving Hashem? How do I do better in interacting in Hashem's world? Good morning, Shalamet, and you're not on mute.
Lovely. Yeah, no, not far. I'm in back on Gidon. Aviva?
I haven't. Shalamet, can you mute yourself, my love? Okay, I didn't. 1 second. I'm planning hosting and I'll mute it. And 108
53, yeah.
242 7733.
Okay.
Good, we're glad that
I'll send you a message.
Hey, I did it. I get so excited when I'm able to do something on modern technology. And I'm not struggling. Did you see how I did that? Quickly put my number, claimed host, and said, we love you, Shalamet, but we're going to keep you quiet. So I'm going to take that well-deserved applause. Thank you. Okay, so what are we saying? What we asking? What is the best way that I am able to serve Hashem and interact with him? His will. Because I want to get out of my warm bed. I want to do all the things that I need to. I want to pray. I want to do all the things that I need to. And the world Hashem has given me. So how can I make my interaction deeper and more connected? Hashem gives us a time and space, what he calls tikkun olam. See you, dolls. Are you going into Lorraine? Give her a big hug. Okay. What do we need to do? We want to repair the world. Tikkun olam. And there are lots of ways that we can repair the world. And we've got this thing that we say, and now Cheshvan, okay, which is the second of the month in the Jewish calendar, comes back. We are going to take Rosh Chodesh is Thursday night. We are going to breathe we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to say, the time is now. This is the time. This is the time that we, me, myself, and I, am going to do this thing called Tikkun Olam in the best way that I can, and finding the way that I serve Hashem. And that's when we start finding the things. It doesn't matter what we do. You know, little things. When we're providing a meal for somebody, when we can. Or if we're not able to provide a meal, when we go and visit somebody, or say, you know, I've got half an hour, there's somebody who needs to go for a walk, and it's not raining. Let's go. Let me phone the person. Let me see if I can do that. I want to do a little bit more than I need to. So we have to take a deep breath and say, the time is now. And all of the hopes and prayers and moments in which we saw ourselves clearly committed to growth during those couple of months that we've just passed, we now have to be able to say, I'm in it. And I'm doing more in my commitment that I had when I stood before Hashem. You know, on Yom Kippur and Kol Nidre, my friend said to me, Shelly, and that's the mother of Daniel Shimon ben Doron Eliezer. She said, you know, I'm sitting and I'm reading. I'm in shul and I'm looking at all these things. And she said, I actually looked up and I said, Hashem, telling me I've got to ask you for forgiveness. Actually, you need to ask me for forgiveness. You've taken my child, you know? And when she said that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, this is harsh. But the reality of what they're doing with their pain is so huge in how they are turning around. And I said to her, I said, you don't know what you guys are doing. I sent her a little package. Can you imagine? You know what was in my package? A friend of ours went today for the memorial. So what's in my package? Magnets that she wanted because they only have the blocks of our Beit HaMikdash. I sent her a package of magnets. I sent her 2 empty containers of Yotzat candles, which have a picture of her son on the front, that my friends who did the candles made pictures of those that they could, that have that for the Haskara, for Yom Kippur and for Yizkor. But I put little tea lights in. They were empty and that's all I had. I didn't have new ones. I couldn't put new candles, but I put 2 little tea lights in. And I sent a packet of a box of Bendix chocolate. So the person who was taking, he says she's got enough chocolates and sweets there to open up her own shop. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, I've got to send these hard things with something sweet. I've got to send it with some chocolate, because even if she gives a box of chocolates away, it doesn't matter. These things are all Tikkun Olam. Every time somebody chooses to take a magnet and put it on their fridge, we had in our sukkahs beautiful posters that were laminated. And you know what? We felt the presence of the Beis HaMikdash because we want the presence of the Beis HaMikdash in our lives. And we're going to make sure that they're there all the time. And if we're not, why do I wear? And I hadn't put on my other necklace here, but I said, why do I wear these things? It's not about me. I can't see them, but other people do. So when people look, I want them to remember, oh, the hostages. Oh, Daniel Shimon. Oh, we all Yidden and we all connected, and this is Tikkun Olam. So when we're going to do our Chalamet, but Ezra Hashem, we're going to have a stellar, and people are going to want to come, and we only got space for 400. And we've only got Thursday 2 weeks. But I want people to commit, and I want shuls to commit. And you know how you get commitment from people? You say, if you want your shuls label on the flyer, pay me. And then you'll get commitment. And we have buy-in. Why? Because we want to be part of something bigger. Because we want to do this because every single bracha that's going to come from every bowl of challah and every person that's going to wash and make a mitzvah is going to be something that brings us closer. That's Tikkun Olam. When we can have something and you can add I went to do in somebody's house last week. A young woman getting married. Her mother wanted to do, after she'd been to mikvah, her mother wanted to do something, obviously good Sephardim, because then they tell us all about, of course everybody goes to mikvah. It doesn't matter how secular you are, wherever you're from. They were supposed to get married in Israel in the summer, but they changed it to Marbella. I'm thinking, what's wrong with London? Like, you can get married in London as well, but they're getting married in Marbella. Okay. They got married, Baruch Hashem, in Marbella on Sunday. And I went and I did a chalamek with them last week, Erev Yom Tov. And I thought, you know what? You are like your children, Hashem. Look at everybody. They want a wedding that is a kosher wedding. They want to do something, they go to mikvah. And when the girl says they're going to live in South Africa for 3 months in January, I said, where are you going to be in Cape Town? Oh, they've got beautiful mikvahs there in Cape Town. And she's, really? Oh, that's amazing. I said, you've got a mikvah everywhere in the world. And if you don't have one, you'll find a river or you'll find the sea. I said, but in Cape Town, they've got a beautiful mikvah. She said, oh, that's amazing. Because I was really thinking I would love to do. So already they're going to be connected to the rabbi and the rebbetzin there, and they've got their mikvahs, and now she's making challah. She wants to do something challah. Why? And I'm thinking, this is the time for bracha. We take the ordinary and we elevate it. We take dough and we elevate it. And that dough which we take, we're going to be making for the Kohanim. How awesome. Can you imagine such a beautiful thing? And then they went into Chag. So I asked the mother, how was the challah? She says, don't tell anybody. We ate them after they came out of the oven, but I put away some for after we get back because I put them in the freezer. She said, yum. And I always make a joke with people. I say, you keep it for Shabbat or Chag or Yom Tov or Shabbos and Yom Tov. But that's if you can manage not to eat them when they come out of the oven fresh. And if you have it in a Harav oven, you can have it with butter. Right? Even better when you're making sourdough. And I thought to myself, this is so beautiful. Here are these people, and believe me, I was like, the dress code was stunning, if that's what, hello, like, ooh, it's okay. Because I even acknowledged a couple of times that girls didn't want to say, they said, oh, when you coming? And then I'm standing there. So they didn't really want to say on Friday or Saturday. And they kind of like changed the subject a bit because they can't say in front of the rebbetzin that they're traveling on Yom Tov or Shabbos. How gorgeous. How beautiful. That's something they acknowledge and they recognize. On Shabbos Project, I've got 8 families in Bournemouth. They don't keep Shabbos over. One person never boils a kettle on Shabbos because when she started keeping Shabbos Project, she got a Shabbos urn and a hot plate. So she never boils the kettle. She fills her Shabbos urn every Shabbos, even if they don't keep all of Shabbos. Now, for the Shabbos Project, they're keeping Shabbos. I gave them a month's notice, and I cooked Friday night dinner for all of them. And now we're up from 3 families to 9 families. And I don't have to cook that Friday night because I've got a bat mitzvah, family bat mitzvah, and we're going to. But I'm going to make sure I've got it all done before, and they get a very nice dinner. I've sent them the menu. So this is your menu for when you're keeping Shabbos. Is it a bribe? It's a bribe, 100%. I'm even sending sourdough. Why? Because if we can use something which is mundane and we can elevate it, then this is the time. How is it that chills and they'll be too tired? It's straight after Yom Tov. Who's got time for this? What are you talking about? We don't have time to let down for 1 minute. It's after Yom Tov. And you know what? We should be working double as hard. It's not the week that the rabbis and everybody take off because that's when they do, and Magiya Lahem, they owed it. But actually we shouldn't. I'm not going to say on their behalf, on mine. I don't have a community, so it's easy for me to. But this is the week that we double up. We had Bereshit already. We didn't even have space in between to prepare for Bereshit. But you know what? I'm actually speaking on Friday morning at a vigil in for the hostages in Boreham Wood. And my friend messaged me and they said it's very apt that Rabbits and Doves coming this week. I said, oh, really? Why? She said, well, it's Noach, the dove. So I said, okay, how cute. Vera, את יכולה לפתוח? תודה. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Vera, את יכולה לפתוח לי? תודה. As my Romanian cleaner speaks better Hebrew than English, so there you go. Okay? Everybody needs to be on board. That's what we need. So this is what we're looking at. We're going into this. We're coming here. We are now already at Parshas Noach. How much more time do you think we have? If we waste our time trying to get something and somewhere and trying to do something, we are going to miss out. We cannot let up for a moment. And we can't exhaust ourselves. We've got to pace ourselves and know. And we've got to connect ourselves and we've got to consolidate. Consolidate. You cannot build the next stage on a foundation until the foundation is settled and sorted. And that's what we're going to do. We have the foundation. We're going to solidify our foundation, and then we're going to build. And then we're going to get to the next, and then we're going to build. And right now, in Cheshvan, we don't stop. No stopping, but consolidate. Huh? Okay. No consolidating. Okay? We carry on, and we do. And we look, and we say, okay, Hashem, we being the best that we can be, give us the koyach, give us the energy, and let's do what we need to do. And that's what we need. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we've got all this energy. We're not exhausted. We've had all of the spiritual, physical, and emotional input, and we can consolidate it and do the best that we can do. And that's where we are. So I'm looking forward to continued energy and whatever energy we have put in, because this is a time for Tikkun Olam, and any little bit that we can do and say, Hashem, I just want to make your world a tiny little bit better place. That's all. He knows, he speaks English, and he gets it. And he gets the inside of our neshamas and our hearts. And that's how we are going to continue to build. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will use this time, even in Mar Cheshvan, of making it into a place of Mar Cheshvan being our place of consolidating and personal growth. And looking forward to seeing everybody sometime soon in person. And Shalom, as you just keep on there in Eretz Yisrael. And we keep going. And please God, I'm next week, actually, even in Manchester next Thursday. And just looking forward to hearing only good things and simchas from all of Klal Yisrael. Okay.
Amen. Joanna just came from a shir that went on a bit longer than it was supposed to. I had it down that it was going to be before yours, but it turns out that it was about the same subject, so it just continued very smoothly.
Oh, good.
Really
I'm
lovely.
glad. I'm glad.
Yeah.
At least all of us are on the same page, and we're all
on the
working
same
to the same,
page.
and we're all working to the same position, and that's the good thing.
And thank you for all the shidduchim you set me up with here in terms of people to go to and families.
Good.
They've been
I'm so
amazing.
happy. We just keep going. You'll tell
Really
us
amazing.
soon about your, tell me about your outing. I've just got to run to a meeting.
For sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, lovely to see everybody, and hi Manchester. Hope
Hi,
you're all
everyone.
okay there. Lots of love.